The grand hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with whispers and snickers. James Carter stood at the center podium, his blue Earth defense uniform a stark contrast against the shimmering walls. Above him, hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising circular tiers, their faces showing everything from amusement to open mockery. As Earth's representative, James said, his voice steady despite the growing laughter, "I am here to announce humanity's successful breakthrough in seventh-dimensional physics." The laughter grew louder. A tall, glowing being from the Bright One's delegation stood up, its light pulsing with what could only be described as hilarity. "You humans," it said, its universal translator making its voice sound like bells in the wind, "barely mastered fourth-dimensional math a century ago. Now you claim to understand the seventh. Perhaps you should count your dimensions again." More laughter filled the chamber. James gripped the podium tighter, his knuckles turning white. Back on Earth, Dr. Anna Moore watched the live transmission from her lab, her lips curved in a small smile. Let them laugh, she thought, her eyes moving to the massive shape hidden under protective shields behind her. "The Council recognizes," continued the Bright One, "that humanity has made impressive progress for such a young species. But please, spare us these fantasies. We mastered sixth-dimensional travel thousands of years ago, and even we know the seventh dimension is beyond current scientific understanding." James took a deep breath. This reaction was expected. Dr. Moore had prepared him for it. "We're not here to ask for validation," he said. "This is merely a formal announcement as required by galactic law regarding significant technological advances." A reptilian delegate from the lower tiers flicked its tongue in amusement. "And what evidence do you have of this supposed breakthrough?" "None that we're required to share at this time," James replied coolly. Article 47 of Galactic Scientific Exchange clearly states that preliminary announcements need only declare the field of advancement, not prove it. This brought a moment of silence. He was right, and they knew it. The law had been written by the older races, never imagining that younger species might use it to their advantage. Back in her lab, Dr. Moore walked over to her main console. Multiple screens showed readings that would make no sense to even the most advanced races. They all thought of dimensions as simple layers, like sheets of paper stacked on top of each other. How wrong they were. The Bright One's light dimmed slightly. "Very well. The announcement is noted." Its tone carried the patronizing weight of an adult humoring a child. "Though I must warn you, making false claims of technological advancement is a serious offense." "Nothing false about it," James said, allowing himself a small smile. "Time will prove our words. That is all." As he stepped down from the podium, the laughter and jokes resumed. One delegate suggested humans might next claim they'd built a universe in their basements. Another wondered if they'd discovered that their cats were actually 10th-dimensional beings. Dr. Moore switched off the transmission. She walked to the massive shape hidden behind the shields, placing her hand on the cool metal surface. Inside this vessel lay humanity's greatest achievement, not just an understanding of the seventh dimension, but the realization that everything the galaxy's most advanced races understood about dimensional physics was fundamentally wrong. "They'll understand soon enough," she whispered to herself. The ship beneath her palm hummed with possibilities, literally infinite possibilities, all existing at once. The Bright Ones, for all their advancement, had never realized that the dimensions weren't separate layers to be conquered one by one. They were aspects of a single, unified reality. Humanity hadn't climbed up to the seventh dimension. They'd simply learned to see what was always there. Her phone buzzed. A message from James. "Exactly as you predicted. Complete dismissal." She typed back, "Perfect. Begin Phase 2. The laughter of the Galactic Council still echoed in her mind. Let them laugh. Soon they would understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their determination, but their ability to see things differently. The seventh dimension wasn't above or beyond. It was everywhere, in everything, all the time. And humanity had learned how to dance with it. The training room of the EDS Horizon looked like a nightmare gone wrong. Objects floated in impossible angles, light bent in ways that hurt the eyes, and in some spots, reality itself seemed to fold like paper. Captain Robert Steele watched his crew stumble through the chamber, their faces pale but determined. "Again," he ordered, his voice firm but encouraging. "Remember, forget everything you know about up and down. In the seventh dimension, those words mean nothing." Lisa Thompson, his navigation officer, moved through a section where gravity twisted like a pretzel. She had thrown up the first 5 times. Now, on her 15th try, she danced through it like it was natural. The other crew members were getting better too. "Sir," called out Mike Reed, the ship's engineer, "I think I'm starting to see it. The patterns, they're everywhere, aren't they?" Steele nodded. This was why they had been chosen. Out of thousands of candidates, these 6 people could adapt their minds to see beyond normal reality without going insane. Dr. Moore had called it dimensional flexibility, the rare ability to accept that everything they knew about physics was just a tiny part of a much bigger picture. An alarm blared through the ship, red lights flashed, and Dr. Moore's voice came over the intercom. "Captain Steele, bridge immediately. We have a situation." The crew rushed to their stations, moving through the twisted spaces with practiced ease now. On the main screen, a grim message flashed. "Colony attack in progress. Titan base under fire." "Status report," Steele barked as he entered the bridge. Dr. Moore stood by the main console, her face lit by multiple holographic displays. 3 alien ships, unknown origin. "They're testing our outer defenses. This isn't a coincidence, Captain. They're probing us after the Council announcement." Steele settled into his command chair, watching the tactical display. The alien ships moved with deadly precision, their weapons far more advanced than anything humanity had faced before. But that wouldn't matter soon. "Time to show them what the horizon can do," he asked. "Not yet." Dr. Moore shook her head. "This is just a test run. We need to respond conventionally first. Let them think they know what they're dealing with." The crew watched as Titan base's defensive systems engaged the attackers. Regular Earth ships moved to intercept, fighting bravely but clearly outmatched. Steele's hands gripped his armrests tighter. "Dr. Moore," he said quietly, "those are real people dying out there." She met his gaze, "And if we reveal our full capabilities too soon, many more will die later. Trust me, Captain. This is necessary." The battle continued. Through the viewport, they could see flashes of weapons fire in the distance. The alien ships moved like deadly dancers, their technology making Earth's best ships look primitive. "All hands," Steele announced over the ship-wide comm, "prepare for dimensional shift. This is not a drill. Remember your training." The crew moved to their stations. Lisa's hands hovered over the navigation controls, which looked more like an abstract sculpture than any normal helm. Mike monitored the engines, if you could call them engines when they manipulated the fabric of reality itself. "They're starting their final attack run on the base," Dr. Moore reported. "Now, Captain, show them what a fraction of our power looks like." Steele nodded. "Lisa, take us in. Standard space only, no dimensional shifts yet. Let's give them something to think about." The EDS Horizon moved from its hiding spot behind Saturn's rings. It looked deceptively normal from the outside. A sleek, dark vessel about the size of a destroyer. The alien ships immediately turned their attention to it, probably expecting another easy target. Their first volley of shots passed straight through the horizon, hitting empty space, not because the ship had moved, but because it was only partially existing in their reality. That got their attention. Mike grinned at his console. The alien ships paused, their attack on Titan base momentarily forgotten. Their sensors must have been going crazy, trying to understand what they were seeing. "Send the message," Steele ordered. A simple transmission went out to the alien vessels. "This is your only warning. Leave Earth space immediately." The aliens responded with another barrage of weapons fire. This time, the horizon didn't even bother to let the shots pass through. It simply existed in a space where the attacks hadn't happened. "Should we show them more?" Lisa asked, her fingers ready on the controls. Dr. Moore smiled. "No, this was perfect. They'll report what they saw, but it will sound impossible. Let them wonder. The real demonstration comes later." The alien ships retreated, moving faster than they had arrived. As they fled, Steele couldn't help but wonder what their crews were thinking. They had just witnessed something that broke every rule of physics they knew, and they hadn't seen anything yet. "All systems ready for full dimensional test," Mike announced from his engineering station. The EDS horizon floated in deep space, far from any inhabited worlds. Today, they would finally unleash its true power. Dr. Moore stood in the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the main display. "Captain Steele, the moment we activate full seventh dimensional drive, every advanced race in the galaxy will detect us. Are you ready for that?" Steele looked at his crew. Each face showed a mix of excitement and fear. They had trained for months, but nothing could truly prepare them for what was about to happen. "Lisa, take us to Dimensional State 1, he ordered. The ship hummed softly. Through the viewports, space began to look different. Stars stretched into lines, then curved into impossible shapes. Lisa's hands moved across her controls with practiced grace. "State 1 achieved," she reported. "Reality anchor holding steady." Dr. Moore nodded. "Good. Now for the real test. Captain, give the order." Steele took a deep breath. "Take us to full dimensional state. All crew, remember your training. What you're about to see is real, even if your mind says it's not." Mike pressed a sequence of controls that looked more like abstract art than buttons. The ship's hum changed to a deep pulse that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. And then it happened. The universe opened. Through the viewports, they could see everything. Not just what was in front of them, but what could be. Past, present, and future existed simultaneously. They saw versions of their ship where different decisions had been made, different paths taken. "My God," Lisa whispered. "I can see everything." "Focus," Dr. Moore reminded them. "Don't let your mind wander. Stay anchored to our reality stream." In one direction, they saw Earth as it was, is, and could be. In another, they saw alien civilizations rising and falling across millions of years. The ship wasn't just moving through space, it was moving through possibility itself. "Sir," Mike called out, his voice tense. "Multiple ships approaching." "No, they're already here. They've always been here, I think." Steele understood his confusion. In this state, time worked differently. The Bright One's ships had detected them, and what arrived / were arriving / had arrived, all at once. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing 5 vessels of pure light. The Bright Ones had sent their best ships to investigate. In normal space, these ships were practically invincible. Here, they looked strangely limited, like shadows of themselves. "They can't see what we see," Dr. Moore explained, a hint of pride in her voice. "They achieved 6th-dimensional travel by brute force, pushing their way through dimensions like breaking through walls. We learned to dance with reality itself." The Bright One ships surrounded them, their sensors probably going crazy trying to understand what they were seeing. The horizon existed in all possible locations at once, yet remained perfectly stable. "They're charging weapons," Mike reported, then paused. "No, wait. They already fired, but also haven't fired yet. This is giving me a headache." "Lisa," Steele commanded, "show them what we can do." "Maneuver pattern Delta." Lisa smiled. Her hands moved across the controls, and the horizon began to dance. It didn't just move through space, it moved through possibility. Each movement showed a different potential reality, all existing simultaneously. The Bright One ships fired, their energy weapons cutting through space. But the horizon was everywhere and nowhere. existing in all possible positions at once. You can't hit what exists in every possible location simultaneously. They're transmitting, Mike announced. Audio only. A musical voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, what have you done? This is impossible. Our sensors show you existing across all probability streams simultaneously. Dr. Moore stepped forward. Not impossible, just a different way of thinking. You tried to conquer the dimensions. We learned to understand them. The Bright One ships hung motionless in space. For the first time in their species' history, they faced something they couldn't comprehend. Send the encrypted data packet, Dr. Moore told Mike. Let them try to understand what they're seeing. As the data transferred, Steele watched the alien ships through the viewport. He could see their past and future at once, their confident approach, their current confusion, and their future retreat. Time was just another dimension to play with now. Sir, Lisa said softly, look at the stars. They all turned to look. From their seventh-dimensional viewpoint, the galaxy itself seemed alive. Not just with motion and light, but with possibility. Every star, every planet, every atom danced with potential. They weren't just watching the universe anymore. They were seeing its soul. And somewhere, in a grand hall far away, the laughter had stopped. Emergency alarms blared throughout the EDS horizon. Captain Steele rushed onto the bridge, his face grim. The main screen showed chaos at Proxima, Earth's largest colony. A fleet of Bright One ships had appeared without warning, their weapons already firing. Status report, Steele barked. 50 ships, sir, Lisa answered from her station. The Bright Ones brought their entire third fleet. They're targeting civilian areas. Dr. Moore stood silently at her console, watching numbers flow across her screen. They're trying to prove a point, Captain. After our demonstration, they want to show they're still powerful. The bridge crew watched in horror as golden beams of energy cut through Proxima, his defensive shields like paper. The colony had 10 million people. 10 million lives at stake. Not today, Steele said quietly. Lisa, take us in. Mike, power up the dimensional drive. Today we show them everything. The horizon jumped into action. In normal space, it would have taken hours to reach Proxima, but they weren't using normal space anymore. Dimensional state active, Mike reported. Sir, the ship wants to try something new. The AI is suggesting a possibility I've never seen before. Dr. Moore rushed to his station, her eyes widening at the readings. Let it happen, Captain. The ship's consciousness has evolved faster than we expected. Steele nodded. He had learned to trust both his crew and his ship. Do it. The universe bent around them. But this time, instead of seeing all possibilities, they became all possibilities. The horizon didn't just exist in multiple places. It existed in multiple times, all at once. They appeared at Proxima before the attack began, during the attack, and after the attack. Past, present, and future versions of the horizon surrounded the Bright One's fleet. Impossible, came the transmission from the alien flagship. You can't exist in temporal simultaneity. Watch us, Steele replied. This is your only warning. Leave our colony alone. The Bright Ones responded with a full assault. Thousands of energy beams, torpedoes, and weapons. Steele had no name for streaked toward the horizon, or rather, toward every version of the horizon. Now, Dr. Moore commanded, show them what humanity can really do. Lisa's fingers danced across her controls. The horizon didn't dodge the attacks. Instead, it shifted the probability of being hit to zero. Not by moving, but by choosing to exist in the reality where each shot missed. They're trying to predict our movements, Mike reported with a small smile. They don't understand. We're not moving at all. He was right. The horizon remained perfectly still. Instead, it manipulated which version of reality became real. In one moment, they were behind the alien fleet. In the next, they were inside it. Then they were everywhere at once. Target their weapons only. Steele ordered. No casualties. The horizon reached out across dimensions. Instead of firing weapons, it simply shifted the probability of the alien weapons existing to zero. Across the Bright One's fleet, weapon systems simply ceased to be, choosing to exist in a reality where they had never been installed. "What are you doing?" the alien commander demanded. "This defies all physical laws." "No," Dr. Moore replied, opening a channel. "It defies your understanding of physical laws. Reality has always worked this way. You just never learned to see it." On the main screen, they watched as the mighty Third Fleet hung helpless in space. Ships that had terrorized galaxies floated powerless, their most advanced weapons erased from existence. "Send the message," Steele ordered. A simple text transmission went out to every ship. "Earth is under seventh-dimensional protection. Share this with your council. Further aggression will be met with more than just defense." The Bright One's ships started retreating, their golden hulls dim with defeat. As they fled, Mike noticed something on his readings. "Sir," he said, "I'm detecting temporal observers. The Galactic Council. They were watching the whole thing." Dr. Moore smiled. "Good. Let them watch. Let them learn." Steele looked out at Proxima, its people safe, its future secured. The horizon hummed around them, not just a ship anymore, but a demonstration of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to see beyond what others thought possible. "Take us home, Lisa," he ordered. "I think they got the message." As they shifted through dimensions back to Earth, the crew knew that everything had changed. The galaxy would never laugh at humanity again. They had just changed the rules of what was possible. The Great Hall of the Earth Defense Force headquarters was packed with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The same aliens who had laughed at humanity weeks ago now sat in complete silence, their eyes fixed on Dr. Moore as she stood at the center stage. Behind her, a hologram showed the EDS horizon floating in space. Captain Steele and his crew stood to one side, their faces calm but proud. "You don't understand the seventh dimension," Dr. Moore began, "because you're trying to climb to it. That's not how it works. The seventh dimension isn't up there." She pointed upward. "It's everywhere. It's right here." The Bright One's representative, its glow dimmed with humility, spoke first. "But we mapped the dimensions. Each one builds upon the last." Dr. Moore smiled and pressed a button. The hologram changed to show a simple water drop. "Look at this water drop. How many dimensions do you see?" "3," answered many voices at once. "Wrong," she said. "You're seeing all dimensions at once. The height, width, and depth you notice are just the parts your mind is trained to see. But the water drop also exists through time, through probability, through possibility, and through dimensional phase space, all at once. Always." She walked through the hologram, letting it ripple around her. "Humanity didn't build a better engine or find a new form of physics. We simply learned to see what was always there." The room erupted in whispers. Captain Steele stepped forward. "Let me demonstrate," he said. He took a simple glass of water from the podium. "This glass exists here now," he began, "but it also exists a second ago, and a second from now. It exists in a world where I drop it, and one where I don't. It exists in realities where it's full, empty, or never was filled. All these possibilities are real all the time. We just learn to see them and choose which ones become our reality." To demonstrate, he let go of the glass. Instead of falling, it hung in the air, existing in the reality where it remained held. A reptilian scientist stood up. "But the energy requirements, the computational power needed." "Zero," Dr. Moore interrupted. "It takes no energy because we're not doing anything. We're just choosing which already existing reality we want to experience. Like changing channels on a video screen. All the channels exist. We just pick which one to watch." The aliens stared at the floating glass, their previous understanding of physics crumbling before their eyes. "The EDS horizon," she continued, doesn't power through dimensions like your ships do. It surfs through possibilities that already exist. That's why your weapons couldn't hit it. You were firing it where it was, but it simply chose to be in realities where your shots missed. Mike, the ship's engineer, stepped forward with a small device. "Watch this," he said. He pressed a button, and suddenly every being in the room could see it. The web of possibilities surrounding them, the infinite realities all existing at once. Gasps filled the room. Some aliens stumbled, overwhelmed by the vision. Others stared in wonder. "This is how we see things now," Dr. Moore explained. "Not as fixed objects moving through space and time, but as clouds of possibility waiting to be chosen. Your mighty fleets, your advanced weapons, they're just possibilities, and we can choose which possibilities become real." The Bright One's representative floated forward. "This changes everything. Our entire understanding of the universe is incomplete," Dr. Moore finished, "but not wrong. You built incredible things working with just a fraction of reality. Imagine what we could all build together, seeing the whole picture." She pressed another button, and the overwhelming vision faded. The glass floated back to the podium, settling gently. "We're not here to dominate," Captain Steele added. "We're here to share. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our power. It's our ability to see things differently, to question what everyone else takes for granted." The room fell silent again, but this time it wasn't the silence of shock or fear. It was the silence of understanding, of minds opening to new possibilities. Dr. Moore looked at her audience and smiled. "The universe isn't what you thought it was. It's bigger, stranger, and more beautiful than any of us imagined, and we've only just started to understand it." The laughter that had once filled these halls was gone, replaced by something far more valuable: wonder. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was unlike any in its million-year history. Instead of their usual orderly sessions, thousands of representatives spoke at once, their voices mixing in a storm of confusion and excitement. The council leader, an ancient being of pure energy, called for order. "We have seen things that break every rule we thought we knew," it announced. "The humans have not just surprised us. They have changed everything." On the massive screens around the chamber, recordings played in loops. The EDS Horizon defeating 50 ships without firing a shot. The glass that refused to fall. The moment when every being in Earth's presentation hall saw reality as humans now saw it. Captain Steele and Dr. Moore sat quietly in the center of the chamber. Above them, the Bright One's entire delegation glowed with dim, nervous light. "How do we know they won't use this power against us?" a voice called out. "They could rewrite our entire history." "No," Dr. Moore said firmly, standing up. "That's not how it works. We can't change what was. We can only choose between possibilities that already exist, and every possibility has consequences." She waved her hand, and suddenly the chamber shifted. Everyone could see the web of possibilities again, but this time they saw something more. How each choice rippled out, affecting countless other realities. "Watch," she said. She focused on a simple cup on her podium. "I could make this cup vanish, choosing a reality where it never existed. But look at the consequences." The aliens watched in wonder as golden lines of cause and effect spread out from the cup like a spider's web. Changing that one small thing would alter thousands of other things. The person who made it, the materials it was made from, the water it held. "Power isn't about what you can do," Captain Steele added. "It's about understanding what you should do." The council leader floated down to their level. "Yet you could have destroyed our ships. You could have chosen realities where our civilizations never rose to power." "We could have," Steele agreed, "but then we'd be choosing a reality where humanity became conquerors instead of explorers. That's not who we are." Dr. Moore nodded. "Every possibility exists, but we still have to choose who we want to be." The chamber erupted in discussion again. Some representatives argued for immediately establishing new treaties. Others wanted to learn this new way of seeing reality. A few demanded restrictions on humanity's power. "Friends," Dr. Moore called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Let me show you something else." She pressed a button on her console. The EDS horizon appeared in orbit above the Council world, visible through the chamber's transparent dome. But this time, something was different. "We've modified the ship's dimensional field," she explained. "Look at your own ships through its effect." The assembled aliens gasped. Their vessels, from the simplest shuttle to the most advanced battleship, suddenly appeared as they truly were, not just physical objects, but clouds of possibility and potential. "Your ships, your technology, they already interact with all dimensions," Captain Steele explained. "You just couldn't see it. Until now." The Council leader's energy form pulsed with understanding. "You're offering to teach us." "Better," Dr. Moore smiled. "We're offering to learn together. Humanity's breakthrough isn't just about seeing across dimensions. It's about understanding that no one species, no one perspective, can see everything. We need each other." She gestured to the ships above. "Your technology is incredible. You've built things we can barely understand. Now imagine what we could build together." Seeing the full picture, the chamber grew quiet. The Council leader turned to address its people. "For 1,000,000 years, we thought we knew how the universe worked. We built our civilizations on that knowledge. Today, we learned we were looking at shadows and calling them the whole picture." It turned back to the humans. "Your people were laughed at in this very chamber. Yet you come offering partnership instead of revenge." Captain Steele stood. "Because that's the reality we choose to make real. Not one of dominance and revenge, but one of exploration and growth." Dr. Moore added, "The universe just got infinitely bigger and stranger than any of us imagined. Shall we explore it together?" One by one, the representatives of 1,000 worlds stood. The Council leader raised its glowing form high. "The motion is carried," it declared. "Let a new age begin." Above them, the EDS horizon hung in space, no longer a weapon or a threat, but a symbol of what was possible when minds opened to new ways of seeing. The age of laughter was over. The age of wonder had begun. 1 year had passed since humanity revealed their understanding of the seventh dimension. The EDS horizon floated near Jupiter's orbit, but it wasn't alone anymore. Ships from 30 different species surrounded it, each one modified with new dimensional sensors. Captain Steele stood on his bridge, watching students from across the galaxy practice their first steps into dimensional awareness. Dr. Moore had turned the ship into humanity's first universal dimensional academy. "Watch your probability streams," Dr. Moore's voice echoed through the communication channels. "Remember, you're not trying to force reality. You're choosing which reality you want to experience." A small ship from the Bright Ones wobbled as it tried to exist in multiple states at once. Instead of their usual golden glow, their ships now shimmered with patterns that showed they were beginning to see across dimensions. "Better, more encourage. You're starting to understand." Mike laughed at his engineering station. "Remember when they used to mock us? Now they're the most eager students." "Different reality," Lisa replied from navigation, smiling. "We chose not to make that one real." The main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. James Carter, the same representative who had once been laughed at in the Council chamber, appeared. "Captain, Doctor," he nodded to them. "The Council has finished their vote. It's unanimous." The crew gathered around to hear the news. Over the past year, they had helped establish a new framework for galactic civilization, one based on their deeper understanding of reality. "The Dimensional Cooperation Treaty has been ratified," Carter announced. "All major species have agreed to use this power only for exploration, defense, and the advancement of all living beings." Dr. Moore nodded in satisfaction. "And the education program?" "Approved. Every species will have access to dimensional awareness training. We're already seeing incredible results. The Bright Ones have combined their energy-based technology with dimensional understanding to create new forms of clean power. The reptilians have revolutionized medicine by treating illness across probability streams. Steele smiled. In just 1 year, the galaxy had changed more than it had in the previous million. Not through war or dominance, but through understanding. "Sir," Mike called out suddenly, "I'm detecting something strange at the edge of the solar system. Well, you should see this." The main screen shifted to show a point of light that seemed to exist in all dimensions at once. It pulsed with patterns they had never seen before. "It's beautiful," Lisa whispered. Dr. Moore rushed to her instruments. "It's a message," she said after a moment. "But not from any known species. I think the universe itself is trying to communicate." The light pulsed again, and suddenly everyone on every ship could see it. A vision of reality far beyond even their new understanding. Dimensions weren't just layers or possibilities. They were the language the universe used to write itself. "We've only just started," Dr. Moore said softly. "Everything we've learned, everything we've achieved, it's just the first word in a cosmic conversation." Carter's image nodded on the screen. "The Council wants to organize an expedition, to make contact. Not to conquer or control," Steele added, "but to understand." Dr. Moore turned to face the crew. "A year ago, they laughed at us for claiming to understand the seventh dimension. Now we know that even that was just the beginning. Who wants to discover what's next?" Every hand on the bridge raised. On the surrounding ships, aliens of all species signaled their agreement. "Plot a course." "Lisa," Steele ordered. "Mike, power up the dimensional drive. Let's see what other wonders this universe has been waiting to show us." As the fleet of ships prepared to venture into the unknown, Dr. Moore looked out at the point of light. The laughter that had once filled the council chamber was long forgotten, replaced by something far more valuable. The joy of discovery, the thrill of understanding, and the wonder of knowing that every answer only led to more beautiful questions. The EDS Horizon led the way, no longer just a human ship, but a symbol of what was possible when beings chose to see beyond their limitations. Behind it followed the ships of 30 species, each one carrying explorers eager to learn what other miracles waited in the infinite possibilities of existence. The age of division was over. The journey of understanding had begun, and somewhere in the vast dance of reality, the universe smiled.